So I've been awake for a while. I don't have time for your foolishness.
Is this your excuse for not watching the match?
No, I watched the match after I didn't watch the match.
Is this your excuse for why you were in a bad mood? I'm assuming why you watched this match. I'm trying to figure out what the catch is going to be.
No, because I'm just saying don't browbeat me and berate me like you did the other day, because I am not in the mood to brook your what did I'm trying to remember what that line was from.
I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I'm not in the mood to, it was an English wrestler. I can remember the interview. I'm not in the mood to brook your arrogance, sir. It might, who knows, it might have been a William Regal. But anyway, I'm not in the mood to put up with your shit, because the other day,
my shit, on
my own program, we were reviewing the big Backlash pay-per-view. And when I said the first match, the first thing that I saw when it was a 3-hour plus program is Bianca Belair and Io Sky, and I knew what the result was going to be, and I wasn't really interested in the issue, and I skipped it to get to the meat of the matter. And you had a conniption fit, as Mama Cornette used to say.
Can I add, you're leaving out important details left and right.
Well, you give them to me from the left, and then I'll give them to you from the right.
This was a match neither one of us was looking forward to seeing. This was a match that, on this show, or on one of these shows, you said that you probably weren't going to watch it, and I said I wouldn't blame you. That's why, after I watched this, because it was the opening match, and I wanted
and then you turned on me.
Well, no,
you
see,
agreed with me before.
I agreed with you. However, this is the important part. I watched it because it was the opening match, and after I saw it, I said, there's no way Jim could fast forward this. It's too good. I immediately emailed you, watch the match. You chose not to watch the match.
Because I told you that I'd already watched this show before I got your email. And then you went absolutely insane. You verbally abused me, browbeat me. You were a Doberman pincher, and I was wearing milk bone underwear. And you said this was the greatest match it was the best match of the night.
I did say that, yes.
I found that impossible to believe, so just to prove you wrong, I did sit down, and I did watch the entire match, and I will have you know that you were right. So what I'm trying to find out now is why? Why was it the match of the night? Because you said, well, the crowd was the story, was a hot crowd. And I thought, well, yes, it was a hot crowd all night because it was a big show and they've been building this for a long time. And they had all their, hometown heroes and local favorites and they were jam-packed. But the crowd was specifically hot for this particular match. And not only that, but they booed Bianca Belair, the babyface, out of the building and decided that they were going to get with Io Sky. And it was to the point that it was off. It was even past the old territories type of, there wasn't the same level of heat like we believe everything we see and we want to kill you. But it was past the old territory, yay, boo. Every time Bianca Belair would draw a deep breath, the people would fucking hoot at her. And every time Io Sky just fucking flipped some sweat at Bianca Belair, it was like the babies went in the air. What have I missed? What was the Puerto Rican connection? Why did these people decide, as it started, it seemed this wasn't like a gradual thing from the start. They were like, fuck you, Bianca, and let's go Io. What was going on that we missed that would cause that reaction?
It could be only one of two things. Either it's just a crowd that decided Io is their person that night for this match, or well, it could be other things, but perhaps something was said in that promo on SmackDown the night before that I don't remember a single thing about, but I saw it here in my notes.
How could she possibly have offended these? But what did she say? The goddamn Hurricane didn't do a good enough job. They ought to come back and finish it. What could you have said? It was like that there was videotape on the fucking Puerto Rico 6 o'clock news of Bianca Belair mistreating puppies and kittens. It was on purpose. It was like, I don't know.
It was the first time Bianca's ever had a reaction like that.
It's the first time again, we've seen the Canada-US thing with in some, situations, whether it was with Bret Hart and Hart Foundation in the 90s or whatever, but there wasn't I heard the introductions. Neither Io nor Bianca is from San Juan. There was no hometown hero in this. And it was complete. And also the thing, well, it was a great match too. And I think part of it was obviously the people revved them up to do well, but they got a chance to work with each other in a way that Bianca has not worked with some of the other girls that I've seen when I watched her matches, because they're not capable of doing the shit that Io was doing. Io is a good worker.
Yeah.
Which also brings up, when they started, it was the good mat wrestling, tight stuff, good basics. That when they did the gymnastics, it didn't look hokey because the way that they set it up made sense. They were trying to outdo each other. You did a flip, well, I'll do a better flip. And it was like they meant it, rather than just the dueling cooperation of the aggressive parkour. And the facials on both girls, and the way that they made it look like a struggle. And even Io did the old Ricky Gibson handstand knee drop that I haven't seen in 40 years out of a baby face. She was a baby face for the night. But that's the thing, is that, again, if Bianca can wrestle like this and her basics are this strong, but most of the other girls don't have any at all, or they don't do this, she doesn't get to show them. And I will admit, again, that Io, I didn't believe. I would have never dreamed by looking at her that she could have a match like that. But therein lies the problem of how the water has been muddied. It's not being racist against Japanese women wrestlers to say that there's a lot of them that have given the good ones a bad name by either the AEW outlaw indie, not even indie girls from Japan being brought in and shoved down people's throat, and it's ridiculous, or the presentation, in my opinion, in the WWE of old Asuka and whoever with the constipation promo and whatever the fuck. It's a little ridiculous. But if you took this girl, Io, and you put her in a tag team with another legitimately good female wrestler that was in contrast to her, had the size where Io doesn't have the height, and maybe had a rougher look or something or other, then you could have a top tag team because the girl can work. But as far as Io, then some people are going to say, well, why can't Io Sky be against Charlotte or Becky or whoever the fuck? Because Io Sky, I will compare in this instance to Bobby Eaton. So everybody knows that I'm not shitting on her. Because if I'm going to compare somebody to Bobby Eaton, it's in a good way. Bobby was in the best tag team in the world. And Bobby was a wrestler in the ring that even Ric Flair looked up to. But Bobby should have never been, and never was, the individual single world heavyweight champion. Because he didn't have the body and the promo to go with the immense in-ring talent. And that's why the tag team suit his strengths and somewhat hit his weaknesses with either a tag team or a manager. And that's the way that you use somebody who's an amazing worker, but isn't visually nor presentation wise ever going to be a top single. So there you have that. The only bad thing that I did, if they hadn't had a match worked out, and if they were further along or in another system where they had been, because I'm pretty sure Bianca never trained with Rip Rogers, so she don't know how to call it in the ring. She came along much after OVW. If they could have changed the matchup that they had, because it didn't make sense when the people were so obviously behind EO, and I'm not saying Bianca should have started gouging eyeballs and pulling out foreign objects and working like the Sheik, but they could have changed things up before they got to where they needed to go and fed the people's interest a little better, don't you think?
Change it up in what way, though?
Well, I'd have to sit here and watch it with you.
Because to me,
go over everything, but every time, like the yay boo, the big yay boo that they had in the middle, right? Where they started out on their knees and the people were really with it. But Bianca won the exchange with a backbreaker. And instead of a big, hey, I got a big, oh. Little things like that. The nominal baby face for the evening could have come out on top of a few of those exchanges and gotten bigger pops from the people since they were doing it anyway. And it wouldn't have changed the result or even the concept of the match. They would just slowly switch it a little bit in midstream if they were calling it on the fly, where, well, remember Michaels did that with who? Or no, it was Rock and, no, Michaels oversold for Hogan. It was Rock and Hogan in Toronto. They changed their shit up a little bit. And the way that each person reacted, EO could have milked people a little bit more. Bianca could have got a few more, oh shit, what the fuck's happening looks on her face, and just changed the dynamic of the match. But they did the same match they had worked out, because they all work out matches now. Even with Bianca visually, facially acknowledged that people were shitting on her, but, there wasn't any change of the match.
I think Bianca does an excellent job of making, she did it maybe better than ever before here, of making a match look like an athletic competition that she's struggling in. This is the first time that I can remember, if I've seen it before, I just don't remember it off the top of my head, where her long ponytail got messed up a little bit. It wasn't so neat. It looked like someone had been in a fight. You know what I mean? Like it was strands of it that were kind of loose.
Yeah, it was like, shit. Well, and that was they really struggled, and they had nice false finishes going in, and then they did the multiple back and forth. And when EO did the moonsault off the top to the floor, again, I have to call it, because I call it on other people, including Hangnail Page. She didn't look to make sure the girl was back there. But at least she rolled her in and tried to beat her after that. And right there, it had been such a good match. I wrote, I get the feeling that they should go now. And son of a gun, that's where they started apparently going into their sequence, because remember Bianca, EO tried to Hurricane Rana Bianca off the top, and Bianca caught her.
That was great.
And there was a sit-up, and tried to do a sit-up, and boom, and finally she hits the power bomb. Big pop on a huge, a big pop rather, on a 2 count. And then I wrote, okay, they have to be going. And then here came Bayley and Dakota Kai. And at that point, when they had the tug of war with the hair, that's one of the places that probably got messed up. And Bianca picked Sky up in the fireman's carry for her finish. She nails Kai off the apron with her feet. And then EO rolled her up for a 2 count. As soon as they come up, Bianca pulls Bayley in. And did you see? It just grabbed her and it looks like she was trying to throw her out of the ring for a shoot, but like she didn't know how. And Bayley's like, where are you trying to fucking put me?
That was a little awkward.
She threw her out, I think, under the bottom rope. I was like, what the fuck? But she goes back to EO, and that's where Dakota Kyle nails Bianca in the head with a kick, and then Io misses a moonsault, and Bianca hits her finish 1, 2, 3. So they went the back and forth stuff, but it was set up to be a heel fuck finish. The people, again, were not necessarily popping on the right things because I think they wanted Bayley and Dakota Kai to succeed in their malicious endeavors. But then finally, after the thing was over with, they cheered everybody because it was such a good match. But you could tell they would have preferred to see an upset there. But yeah, not only was the crowd hot for wrestling and for the show being there, but the crowd was hot for this match, and they did a wonderful job in it. So hold on, wait a minute. Where's my ding-a-ling? Whoops.
That's your ding-a-ling?
That's my ding-a-ling.
Short and to the point?
Yeah. I think my battery's running down there. Why you got my battery run down so low there, Ron?
I hope you get some batteries for your ding-a-ling. Excellent match. Bianca, I've been saying it to you since NXT. You know, Rhea is one of my very favorites, and Rhea is, you know, it's so early in her career, but I think maybe the best we've ever seen. I mean, we'll see how things work out. She's just so good right now. Bianca's not that far off. Now, the booking and who she works with, maybe that's part of why you don't see her the same way, but she's had big matches that you've loved.
Well, I think, well, just hold on a second. I think part of it is she's always so happy and smiling and skippy and twirling and smiling. And the promos, in many cases, she's trying to do the catty remarks that they script for everybody. I know catty, whether men or women. It's juvenile type insults and banter back and forth with the people they're supposed to be mad at. I think Ripley has the advantage because she's got that look and she can just say, you know, fuck you. And Charlotte has somewhat of the arrogance that she has, you know, but I don't like the fucking happy, skippy, peppy girls that are just trying to be snotty with each other.
But you know what? Look at it this way. Rhea Ripley, from everything I know about her, I believe was a fan as a kid who at a very young age became a wrestler, and she at this point has excelled at what she does. Very similar to MJF, I guess, in a lot of ways. I believe Bianca was an actual athlete who WWE scouted and signed.
Yes, she went to University of Tennessee.
So the idea that, well, I guess, so my point is, I think she is probably as good as you could be right now, considering all she knows from pro wrestling is, here's your script. Here are your lines. Here's what you're supposed to do. She's got the matches down. You know, you can work with the other stuff if you can get the matches down. She can wrestle, and she can make it look like a real fight. And her matches are really good. But again, she came up through that system. So, as opposed to some
you're probably right in that she's never... But hopefully somebody has... Well, but what old tapes do they tell the girls to watch? I was going to say she's never been in any other system and she's never seen wrestling presented as wrestling rather than sports entertainment. I agree with that. I acquiesce to that. What tapes, I wonder, do they tell the girls to watch from the territory days? Because there were no girls in the territory days. But at the same time, how do you understand the real wrestling business and the passion and emotion and believability aspect unless you watch the territories?
And who's there that's going to make the proper recommendations? I mean, there's a lot of questions you could ask about that.
Well, no, there's a bunch of ex-in-ring guys that I'm sure they watch 80s guys. So if they're showing, that's a good, maybe somebody that's been in the program or one of our little birds that twinkles in our ears from time to time can tell us, hey, oh, Jesus, can't hear now. My tinnitus is setting in. Maybe they can tell us what from the 80s they have the girls in NXT watching that would be the equivalent of what the guys watch in terms of the 80s tag teams in the WWF or the 80s NWA or Flair or Hogan or Piper, whoever the fuck. Because if they're just showing them All Japan women, and that may be great athletically, but that doesn't teach you anything about working, having an American style match, doing promos. Do the girls watch the guys from the territories, or do they just not?
I don't know. And then with Io, I think Io's really talented. I liked her in NXT. This is obviously the best thing I've ever seen her in. This was fantastic. And for all the matches you and I sit through, on AEW specifically, but on Raw and SmackDown, the women's matches with silent crowds. It's crazy when you see it like this.
Yeah.
Just crazy. And I understand your point of view. I don't necessarily agree.
The only reason I would want that crowd in Puerto Rico to sit on their hands is if they had knives in them. They were fucking hot.
But when it comes to Io, I understand where you come from. I don't completely agree with, because AEW specifically, I mean, beyond the Asuka promos, but AEW has kind of wheeled out from the very beginning of their promotion.
It's just been ridiculous.
I mean, the first two people you were exposed to were Riho, who's dressed like a tiny princess, and Emi Sakura, who thought she was Freddie Mercury.
With a mustache. Just to remind everybody, it's been a couple of years now. She came to the ring with a mic stand in a Freddie Mercury outfit with a mustache.
But I guess the thing I would stress to you is that it's not Japanese specific. Because
no, it's what is being portrayed to our American audience as what Japanese wrestlers are, they think are, or they want them to believe, or whatever the fuck. And as a result, that's why I see everybody rolling their eyes every time I see one. If these people in Des Moines or in Colorado have not spent, their formative years watching All Japan women tapes, and to know that there's a difference. So again, it's what you are taught and led to believe that if every time if you drove 500 miles down the interstate, and every time you stopped to get something to eat, and you went to a burger place, whether it be Wendy's, McDonald's, Burger King, Five Guys, on and on, every single one of them was a shits, then how many more times would you want to go to a burger place, or would you just turn up your nose at all the burgers?
Probably.
Well, there you go.
But I guess that's my point. If you really look at it, it's beyond just the Japanese women. It's every woman who debuts on wrestling. There are very few who debut and look like fully formed wrestlers. I don't even mean like size-wise, just like not like a little princess or something, or wearing a mustache to the ring, things like that. But there are more goofy. See, I think the problem is, and what makes Rhea and Bianca stand out, to take it beyond just the Japanese women in wrestling domestically, is that there are certain people that stand out, like they treat it the way you want to see it treated. You believe in them. It's not like, I watched wrestling, I watched the Bellas, and I always wanted to do something like that. And now I have this character and I bop to the ring. There's too much of that.
And they're concentrating more on what they're wearing and how they look in the pre-tape, and delivering their scripted verbiage in an overly dramatically, obviously acting-ish way, than actually being who they're supposed to be and working on their in-ring and being wrestlers instead of budding reality TV stars.
Like, can you think of anyone in AEW? I mean, maybe Hayter, and I'm only judging that based on what I've seen of her wrestling people in AEW.
We haven't seen much of her at all lately. Is she hurt too?
What, big babyface turn to give her the belt? Now she's like still second fiddle to Britt. I don't understand how this happened. But
that's right. She's still the champion, one of the champions.
The match that Io and Bianca had, could you actually see anyone on the AEW roster having that kind of match?
No, not
the AEW women's roster, obviously.
No, you didn't need to really narrow that. If you take Danielson out and maybe, FTR's on vacation, then it still works.
All right, so you rank it high. I guess I'll wrap this
I
up.
rank that shit high. I put that shit on everything.
All right, well, that was the positive review, surprisingly, I'm surprised, of Io Sky versus Bianca Belair at Backlash in San Juan,